Good deal. Good morning, and glad you all came. Our guest speaker, he ran out on me. There he is. Our guest speaker today is Gayland Kitch. Yeah, there he goes. He's running for the door. Mark asked me to give a little background, and I went, holy cow. I don't remember when you and I met, but it was probably 86, 87, something in that nature, and a long time ago. And we were both better looking and younger and all that kind of good stuff. But Gayland's been around emergency communications and weather operations, well, the whole time I've known him. So that's 40 years, and he's probably about to get it right. He's the award-winning, it was emergency lifetime service for emergency directors. Is that the paraphrase? Is that right, Gayland?
Yeah, lifetime contribution award.
Lifetime contribution
Which
award.
Their way of saying I've been here too long.
I was going to say the next thing is see you later, buddy. Well, you're not really invited to the meetings anymore. You're out. But no, that's pretty impressive title, pretty impressive award that he's picked up along the way. He's emergency manager for the city of Moore. You might have heard of that. It's a little village north of here that has had some severe weather issues in the past, and a good friend of the club and a good friend of all of ours here. So I will welcome Gayland Kitch.
Well, good morning, everybody. Did I get it? Yeah, that's on. Okay. So this morning's talk was kind of going to be a hybrid of a whole lot of things, and I've whittled it down. So I'm going to take my emergency communications hat off and let y'all play with see my hair that's probably playing. But we're going to talk about severe weather and spotter operations. And for those, how many of y'all have ever been to a spotter class? Okay, hopefully this will all be a refresher. How many of you ever been to one of the talks that I've done at like our senior center or at one of the churches? Okay, well, we've spruced it up a little bit, hopefully. But we're going to talk mostly about severe weather. Go ahead, Mark. So the first rule of severe weather is take care of yourself. You know, the emergency managers, the public safety people, the weather community, the integrated warning team, all of those things can say all sorts of things. Yeah, you should prepare, you should do this, you should do that. Well, you know what? It's on you. It's on you. Protect yourself. Take responsibility for your own safety. Know what the weather is going to do. What's the forecast for today? Oh, sunny and cooler, yeah. At the appropriate time, be aware of what the threats are coming in on you and take some sort of action and don't wait. You know, you look at these slides up here, anybody golfers? Yeah, I got a few. Golf course is probably not the place to be when there's a thunderstorm around, right? How about the stadium? That's probably not a real good place to be in a thunderstorm either, with 80,000 of your closest friends. Or enemies. And I was going to pick on you anyway. So how many times have we had home games and had lightning in the area? It's just a matter of time, right? So, and I would bet, by the way, Eric's former retired public safety. So I would bet that the stadium announcer can probably say, A, we're delaying the game, or delaying whatever festivities at the moment's going on. And what's the plan? They're supposed to go under the bleachers? Yeah. How many people do it? I'll bet it's not half. Yeah, it depends. Yes. You know, I kind of do the same thing in my capacity at Moore. I watch the weather during some of our high school football games at our stadium. And we're lucky to get people to come out of the stands and take shelter where we ask them to, which is not under the metal stands. But they do it anyway. So be sure, my gosh, protect yourself. Think of your own safety. You come first. Take action, don't wait. Next slide, please. So what is severe weather? Officially, it is winds of 58 miles an hour or better. 1 inch plus or 1 inch hail or greater, and or the conditions surrounding a tornado. 1 inch hail, by the way, is the size of quarters. I don't know if you can see it right. Can you go back to the lead slide? Young Mr. Gonzalez up there, that is not a softball he's holding, that's a hailstone. And if you were to see the entire picture, there's more hailstones lined up along the fence behind him. That is not in Western Oklahoma. That is not somewhere else. That was in my fine city up in Moore. His mother took that picture and sent it to us. So yes, if a hailstone that big around hits you in the head, what's it going to do? Not going to be good. Okay, I'm sorry, Mark. Can you go back to, and you can go on one more. Watches and warnings. Somewhere in casual conversation this morning, my ears picked up weather alert. Do we have weather alerts? No. We have watches, we have warnings. There's also right now advisories, but those probably are going away. We've been on a team for many years. Who all in here has weather service connections? I don't see Ken. Yeah, a couple of y'all. Things do not move quickly in the National Weather Service, correct? It's typical federal government. Wheels grind slowly. We have been working, I say we, emergency managers, weather service, meteorologists, broadcasters, social scientists have been working on a project now for at least 10 years, if not longer, to update the watch warning advisory system. We call it the WAWA system. But for the moment, watches and warnings are still here. Watches and warnings will still be around. But what's the difference? So on the left, you see a watch. It runs all the way from north central Kansas clear into northwestern North Texas. That just means that severe weather is possible. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's happening, but it means it's possible. The conditions are right, and they're typically issued for large areas, as you can see, and for time periods that are in the order of hours. So it might be that the Storm Prediction Center, which is housed down at the National Weather Center down on the research campus, Storm Prediction Center might issue a watch for either a tornado or for severe thunderstorms, effective for all of this area from 1 p.m. through 8 p.m. tonight. Hours. On the other hand, when weather is actually occurring, when severe weather is actually occurring, is when they issue a warning. So we have watches, we have warning. Watches mean pay attention. You don't need necessarily to take action right now unless you need to go clean the spiders out of your storm shelter. But you don't have to go to the Frady hole during a watch when a watch is issued. However, if a warning is issued, which you see a tornado warning there, actually you see a severe thunderstorm warning on this storm that's in the watch. These storms don't have warnings on them, but this one does. If a warning's issued, you need to do a couple of things. You need to figure out, am I in the area that's warned? And if so, I need to be doing something. And I need to be doing something right now. Now's the time to go to the Frady hole. Now's the time to get the kids in who are out shooting hoops on their goal or playing football or whatever they're doing outside. If your grandkids are playing softball out at the park, that'd be a really good time to say, game may or may not be called, but my kids are going. Severe weather's actually happening. It's happening right now. Warnings are issued for terms of half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on the speed of the storm. I don't know if you can see the radar up above my picture or above my finger here, but can you put a cursor over the hook echo there? Is that possible? Maybe not. Anyway, over right above over here, Mark, over on the warning, Yeah, right there. Yeah, that's a hook echo on the radar. That means there's probably a tornado. And in this instance, yeah, there was. By the way, this area right here is the city of Norman. The street you see up where the cursor is, that's the city of Moore. And yes, we're getting ready to get blasted by the May 20th, 2013 tornado. Okay, so how do you get your weather information? These guys? Sure you do. We all, come on, let's be honest about it. Yeah, we all hate them. Did I say that on a recorded line? Yeah, nice try. Look, they have a job to do. They have a couple of jobs to do. And it doesn't matter which one of them we're talking about. It doesn't matter whether it's Mike or Damon or David or one of the guys or gals that work for them. They have a couple of jobs. Number one is to provide their viewers with information. And they do that. You think about it, they actually do that. And they're amazing. They have teams that go out in the field and provide you with visual information. It's not just somebody standing in front of you like I am right now, just talking. They actually then can show you a visual on many of these storms, whether it's from their helicopters, from their ground teams, whether it's off their city cams. They show you information because we all know that when it comes to an emergency, people want validation. It's not enough for the weather service to trip off the weather radios, the guys on TV to say it, me to set the sirens off. There's a tornado coming. It's not enough for most people. Most people go, really? Well, and what do? Some of them do that. For the guys on the webinar, I just went to the door and looked outside at the sky. Because that's what we do. We want validation. Maybe the validation you need is these guys switching to their ground crews, their helicopter crews, and showing a picture of a tornado or the conditions around. Maybe that's the validation you need. They are part of a three-sided triangle that we call the integrated warning team. One side of it is the weather service. They have all sorts of cool tools like radar. They also have professional meteorologists interrogating that radar and looking at all of the conditions. It's not just radar, by the way. And they own the weather radios. We'll talk about those here in just a second. One side of the triangle is emergency managers, because we own the siren system and we have other ways of talking to people in our local community. The third side are these guys, the broadcast meteorologists, because quite frankly, 90% of people receive their weather information from TV. It's probably one of the last vestiges of broadcast television that you'll see. You know, we're all seeing the move to streaming and other things, but you can't, it's hard to get these guys that way. Okay, next slide. By the way, we don't prefer one over the, we emergency managers don't necessarily prefer one over another of those guys. We all have our favorites, just like you probably do too. They are all meteorologists. They've all been doing it a long time. Okay, so how else do you receive your weather information? How many of y'all have one of these? Okay, what about the rest of you, and why aren't your hands up? Come on, we're radio guys. We're supposed to love these things.
2 in the morning.
That's what they're for. That's absolutely what they're for.
It's been on my list. Just haven't gone out. Full program.
Those, for those of you who may not know, that is a NOAA weather radio. NOAA being the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Weather Service. These normally will sit on your desk and be quiet. If you want to know what the forecast is for the day, or you're wondering what the temperature outside is, you can always push the button there that says weather/snooze, and it turns the speaker on, and it's a 24-hour continuous broadcast by Mr. Roboto that reads the current conditions, the weather forecast, and some other stuff. However, I didn't bring one along. I should have this morning. They also, when the Weather Service issues a watch or warning that's for the area you have your radio programmed for, you can program it clear down to the county level. So anything that goes on in, let's say you assume you're from here in Cleveland County, you can program it for Cleveland County, and it'll sit on the desk really quiet until a watch or warning is issued. And when it is, it sets off an alarm that will wake you up at 2 in the morning. I heard mine go off, and I was in the south end of our house, and my weather radio is next to the bed in the far north end of my house, and I heard it loud and clear in the other end of the house. And it will sound that alarm for, I think it's about 8 seconds. And then it automatically turns the speaker on, where you will hear Mr. Roboto going, "The National Weather Service in Norman has issued a tornado warning effective until 8:10 p.m. for those folks in northern Cleveland County. People in the city of Moore should duck." By the way, the transmitter's up on the Channel 4 tower, north side of Oklahoma City. So if you have a little bit of reception problem, make sure you have the antenna extended for one. And you guys all know how to figure out where to put a radio transmitter and a receiver. Transmitter's up that way, so north into your house, wherever. If that transmitter goes down, you can also pick up one in Chickasha. Now, you may have to change your radio around depending on what radio you have. This radio, you would have to change the setting on real quick. But the Chickasha transmitter is also very receivable here in Cleveland County. I'm sorry. I tried to, no, go back. Or don't go back, I don't care. How many of y'all rely on these apps on your phone for your warning? A few of you? Okay, that's good. How many weather apps do you have on your phone? 2, 6, okay. So how many we need multiple ways of receiving information warning. So if you have 6 apps on the phone, is that 6 ways? No. Your phone counts as 1. Doesn't matter how many apps you have on it, counts as 1. Because what happens if your battery's dead? What happens if the cell service goes down? We can play what if all day. By the way, here, I'll pick on Eric. This is easy. What is this called during a disaster? Close. I thought I heard it over here. Brick, yeah, that'll work. Paperweight, yeah. Okay, the other thing about apps. Who said 6? What apps do you have? Do you know off the top of your head? Yeah. Do you get warnings off imping? Okay. Oh, okay. Let me back up on how I said. How many apps do you have that will provide you alert? There's a lot of them. So the Red Cross has one. The TV stations, I think, all have them. I don't know if emergency management stadiums does alerts or not. There's numerous of them. There are also some that claim to be the end-all weather app, and they're actually written and run by some 12-year-old kid in his mother's basement in New York. The point here is, if you're going to rely on an app to provide you safety information about your own life, I would recommend knowing the source of where that information comes from. We all know the TV stations are going to have good, solid information. For Oklahoma, they know what they're, it may not always be correct. None of them are necessarily always correct. However, if they say if that comes on, it's one of the TV guys' app, and they say there's a tornado warning for Cleveland County, there's probably a warning for Cleveland County. On the other hand, if it's some kid operating, just having fun, it might go off right now. We're not under any sort of tornado threat at the moment, but some 12-year-old kid in his mom's basement in New York, or maybe it's somebody overseas messing with the public. We saw an event of that last week, didn't we? So again, I'm not saying don't use them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is know the source. Know the source. It's absolutely critical. Okay, now you can move on. Woo! Tornado siren. Old technology. Oh my gosh, they're terrible. Oh, blah, 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 blah. You know what? How many of y'all rely on these? I do. Sure, there's not a darn thing wrong. Okay. So what if these two sirens right here were installed in the city of Moore when I was a high schooler in Kansas? Maybe even while I was still in grade school. I have 9 sirens. I've got 5 Thunderbolts, and I've got 4 2T22s that were installed somewhere in Moore between 1970 and 1976. And you know what? Where's you sit under one of them, or so, do you sit in under the legacies? Does it knock your ears out? Oh yeah. That's what it's for. Okay. So they were originally used for air raid warnings because the Ruskies were going to come bomb us, right? Probably not a threat, and it's probably not really a valid means of warning for that event anymore. But my gosh, they make a lot of noise. That Thunderbolt's rated at 126 decibels at 100 feet. Yeah, well, that ought to get your attention. The 2T at the bottom is not quite as much. So that's the whole purpose, is to get your attention. And in Oklahoma, we all know. Do we have any imports here, by the way? New imports? Okay. I'm sorry if and I know you know all this, so sometimes I forget that we have people who just moved here and that aren't legacy Okies or Kansans like I am, that go, well, what are you talking about? These things go off and make noise. Yeah, that means you should be doing something. If you hear one of my sirens, well, we'll get to that here in a second. So now it's on the next slide. So these are 3 of my types of sirens. This one here, and I think Dave, this is a Norman siren. I think Dave's doing too. We can talk over those too. Public address. Don't use it very often. I've had my system in my siren, my ones that I can talk on more than 20 years now, and I've used the voice capability once. on one siren, and it was for a hazmat. But we have the ability. They're electronic. Mine, I'm not sure about Dave's. They both have batteries they run off of. Mine operate off the batteries. I don't know if the Waylands do or not. The only reason that we have 110 on my sirens is to keep the batteries charged. Yeah, so they all run off the batteries. So if you're worried about the legacy sirens, because I can assure you that one runs on 220. And some of the 2Ts I think may as well. And my gosh, the power might get taken out by the tornado that's coming. Well, A, that siren should already be going off. And B, it doesn't matter because on these sirens, yeah, these will quit. These won't. Those sirens run on batteries. I don't know about Dave's on good batteries. Mine are designed to run for about 10 3-minute shots. And I can tell you on May 20th of 2013, I hit them 9 times. And I was expressing concern to my city manager who kept standing behind me going, hit him again, hit him again. Like, at some point, I'm going to be out of battery. He goes, at that point, we'll deal with it. Hit it again. So in that whole event, I only think I blew him like 9 times. So we've got battery power. That's assuming good batteries. Thank you, Larry. Because we just replaced batteries in 4 of them. So these down here, this one is a Federal Model 508. It's the replacement for the Thunderbolts. It makes a lot of noise too. This is an older 2001. That's a Wayland. That's an Oklahoma City siren. So there's all sorts of sirens. Norman's got what, 62 of them? Is that right? 68. I've got 42. You can see a rough map of those. I don't know what David's protocol is for sounding the sirens here. My written protocol says that I activate them anytime tornadic conditions are directly threatening the city of Wilmington. What is a tornadic condition? Doesn't have to be a tornado on the ground. How about a straight line wind of 110 on a derecho that's coming in, expecting 110 mile an hour winds for 60 minutes or 30 minutes? Yeah, I'm hitting my horns because my gosh, that's the equivalent to an F1 tornado. How many of y'all are part of the test net? Yay, thank you. And thank you to the guys who do more. So every Saturday at noon, when the weather's good, most of the communities in central Oklahoma test their sirens. Some of them only do it once a month. We don't talk about North Siders. But Oklahoma City, Norman, Moore, Newcastle, Norman, we test our sirens, do an audible test of them. That means we actually sound them. I think David's sirens do some sort of this. Mine test themselves quietly, electronically, every morning at 8 a.m. and every evening at 8 p.m. twice a day. My sirens will test themselves quietly. That tells us the power's working, tells us the communications are working. And there's obviously, the control board's obviously working. Those are the 3 things that are going to break for the most part. Yeah, occasionally an amp will go out, occasionally a speaker will go out, and we'll find that other ways. But we test them every day. So the audible test merely confirms what gives us ground truth. Ground truth is highly important. And I will give an example. Do you do siren 12 over at Plaza Towers? Probably not. Okay. So my siren 12, I can't reach it up there. I have a siren near Plaza Towers Elementary School, southwest part of Moore. And I saw a citizen comment Saturday afternoon that said, hey, the sirens not go off today because this one didn't. And I'm like, that's interesting because the computer says isn't showing a problem. So I ran a special test on it. Darn if he wasn't right. Activation failed, and we looked at it and it had 3 amps down and 2 drivers. They've since been fixed. So ground truth is highly important to us. If you participate in the siren test net, it's at noon plus 30 seconds or so every Saturday when we sound the siren. It's on the UHF repeater. That stuff's up here. If you want to participate, we can, between Norman and Moore, well, and we do Noble and Newcastle too, there's probably 120 sirens. There's no way when I go out and listen, I can hit 4 or 5 because I know where they're at and I know how to drive to get from A to B in a time. And I know some of you guys do that too. Thank you. Thank you. But my gosh, there's not 110 people calling in saying my siren worked or didn't work. So we always need more people. Can Peter Laws talk?
I can
Peter,
talk. I can talk.
Who's our net control today?
That would be N5UWY will be operating as W5NOR today. Me.
Okay. So at noon today, or at noon plus 30 seconds or a minute, Peter will call the net. It's a roll call net. He's got people already scheduled. This one goes to siren 1, this one goes to siren 2, or it's by their house. Phil, you've got 1 or 2 by your house, right? 18 and 19 in Norman are by Phil, so he reports on them. So you don't have to drive somewhere. I know Aubrey drives, sometimes when there's one that's causing Norman problems, he'll get in the car and he'll drive out and sit under it. We always need more people. Always need more people. Come see any of us and we'll get you hooked up if you're interested in doing that for us. We serve Norman, we serve Moore, we serve Noble, we serve Newcastle. And if you want to call one in on Oklahoma City, the information goes to the emergency manager. So Moore's information comes to me. I get an automatic email every Saturday evening saying, here's the test net, here's the sirens that were covered, and here's the report on it. Dave gets one for Norman. I'm assuming Noble and Newcastle do too.
Yes, they do.
Going around the state, I always get the question, can you discuss the all clear signal that the sirens send?
I will here in just a second since you brought it up. Anyway, if you wish to be a part of the net, get a hold of one of us and we'll get you hooked up. And if you've got a siren you want to listen to, terrific. We would love to have your report.
There is a website that lists which sirens already have observers. You can check that as well.
W5NOR.org, right?
/siren.
And you can sign up there too, I'll bet.
No, you can't, but you can at least see if your local one has somebody.
It doesn't have a link to the yeah, I was gonna say it's an email link. That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Correct. Yes, there is an email link. Yes.
Okay, what's my next slide, Mark? Is it siren stuff still? Nope. Okay. So yes, I don't know where this came from. When the sirens go off, that means you should be doing something like getting in the Brady hole or taking some sort of shelter. We'll discuss that next. If you hear the siren go off again, that means there's still a threat. That does not mean all clear. There is not an all clear sounded at the city of Norman. There's not an all clear sounded at the city of Moore. To my knowledge, there's not an all clear sounded by anybody. Where that came from, I don't know. We've never done it. And I don't believe Norman's ever done it. I could be wrong way back in the day, but it does not mean all clear. Don't hear the siren the second time and go, oh, it's okay, I can come out. Did you want to say something?
I have a comment I'm going to make. It's important, I think. Had a neighbor, and on Saturday afternoons, sirens go off. She knew that I participated in part of that and knew what they were doing and time and so forth. And she said, Mark, I couldn't hear it from my den. I said, the sirens aren't intended for the people that's in their home or business. They're intended for the people that's outside, away from a structure, that need to know that there's a warning or something it can harm them. And she did not know that.
Back in the day, I stated earlier that sirens that I'm familiar with been around since the early 70s. I grew up in Kansas in a community about the same size as Moore. And there was the siren nearest to where I grew up was about half to 3/4 of a mile away, and it was a thunderbolt, like the big. Could hear it inside our house because our house was built such that I don't think it had air conditioning when in my younger years, mom and dad installed it, which meant we slept with the windows open. Yeah, you can hear it then. But do we build houses that way today? No, we build houses intentionally so we don't have to listen to our neighbors, right? Or the teenage kid's car across the street, or the arguments from the domestic going on down the street. We intentionally build our houses so to shut out outside noises, which includes tornado sirens. So, okay, enough on sirens. Let's move on to sheltering. The whole goal in sheltering is put as much stuff between you and the wind as you can. And I'm going to talk about wind, not necessarily just tornadoes here. Because as I stated earlier, if you've got an 80, 95 mile an hour wind, does it matter whether it's rotating or not? It's still finding the houses that aren't constructed properly. It's still finding roofs that aren't tied to the structure. It's still finding tree branches. It's still finding the pile of junk out in the back and scattering it, right? Yeah, including antennas, towers that aren't properly guided, yeah. Okay, so what you want to do is put as much stuff between you and that wind as you can, because it's the stuff blowing in the wind that's probably going to get you one way or the other. Let me say that again. It's not the house coming down on you for the most part. Why is the house coming down? Because it's flipped the roof off, and that lets the wind in. So put as many ceilings as you can between you and the storm. If you've got a basement, woohoo! You got an underground Brady hole, woohoo! That's good stuff. What if you don't? First floor. You want to be down as far as you can get. You want to put as many walls between you and the outside as you can. First wall may fail, second wall may hold. First wall may have the board fly through it, slows it down. Second one slows it down. Get under sturdy things. Flip your couch over and get under it. That would be fun, wouldn't it? But it's the idea. It's one more barrier to that wind. Put a coat on. Wrap yourself in blankets. I was blessed about a year ago to build an above ground storm shelter. I have an engineered shelter at my house. I'm never home to use it, but I have it. Someday I'll retire. Prior to that, the shelter at our house is an interior master bedroom closet. The clothes on both sides come to about here. We've got enough room to walk down the center with clothes all around us. Doors probably not the best. In fact, it's not the best. But hey, we've got barriers. All those clothes are barriers. Word of caution. If you do that, what if you got on the shelf up above you? Is that where you store your bowling ball? Probably not very good. So far down as you can get, far inside as you can get under stuff, wrap up. If you got your kids around or your grandkids and they have bike helmets or sports helmets, put them on. One more barrier. Very good. Sheltering. Don't be in your car. I absolutely can't stress this enough. Don't get in your car. Don't think that you have to go somewhere to take shelter. And I say that, maybe some of you do, but if you do, don't wait till the sirens are blowing. I'm gonna speak from my own jurisdiction here. If my sirens are blowing, it's too late to get in the car. Don't think you've got to go somewhere. How many of y'all have F-150s? I know there's a few. I drive one. Clayton drives one. A couple of others. You got a 250. This is a Ford F-150. It flew 5 houses. Got turned sideways when it found the tree as it's flying sideways through the air. It wrapped itself around the tree. You can't see it very well. That's the front bumper. That's the back. You can see it better over here. It bent the frame, front tire touching the back tire. How much force do you think it takes to do that? Do you think that if you're in that car at the time or in that pickup, that you're going to have any chance of survival? Sorry, none. Don't get in your car. Next slide, please. And don't get in your car to go to a public shelter because, hey, there aren't any. I wish Grizzle was here. I don't think Norman has any anymore. We've never had any. And don't fall into the trap of, well, I know more than you, those guys do. I'll just get, I know all the schools more have shelters because we paid for them. And by God, I'm going to go get in one of them. Why? Those shelters aren't for you. They're for the kids. They're designed for the amount of people that there are at the schools. They're not designed for all the school or all the students and teachers and their staff and 1,000 more people from the community. Same goes for the hospitals. Oh, I can get in the hospital. I can get in the parking garage of the hospital. Think of it this way. Where did I just tell you not to be? In your car. How do you get to a public shelter? In your car. And your car is going to become a flying projectile. Think of it this way. Where are all of my more people? Besides, okay, one or two. Y'all know that 19th Street more is where all the action is, right? You ever tried to cross the I-35 bridge at 19th Street during rush hour or at noon or at 5 p.m.? Yeah. Let me put it this way. My fire department called me the other day wanting me to fly a drone mission for them to document some of that because we have a fire station that's a couple of blocks west and they have a terrible time in a fire truck with lights and sirens getting across and through bridge. How about that? If you've got 10,000 other frantic people trying to run from the storm and they're driving like idiots to begin with. What do you think your chances of survival there are going to be? If that's where the tornado or the winds come. And by the way, when we have tornadoes, is it just where the tornado is? No. There's straight line winds too associated with that. A lot of times off the rear flank downdraft. Most of you know that we got Plaza Tower School destroyed May 20th, 2013. If you looked at the shopping center that's a half-mile south of there, where Okie Tonk and 1907 Burger Bar, although I don't think it's there anyway, all that, yeah, it blew the front and the rear out of that building too. It wasn't tornado winds, it's straight line inflow. And by the way, the hailstone that you saw young Mr. Gonzalez with, that was a couple of miles north of a different tornado event. So that's not true. A tornado, if I can avoid the tornado. Well, yeah, but you can't avoid the rest of the stuff. Don't get in your car. Don't go to a public shelter because there aren't any. This, by the way, if you can't see it, that's a car upside down, or I'm sorry, on its nose in a pile of debris. You think somebody would have survived in that? Probably not. Okay. And heaven forbid, if you live in a mobile home that ain't the place to be. Even if it's tied down will help, but it's not going to survive. And you can see this mobile home was, its foundation was just cinder blocks. That one, I don't know what, that was on a platform of some sort, it looks like. Not anchored to the ground. Remember what I said about houses? And if they're not anchored to the sill plates properly, or if your roof's not anchored, it's all about big mechanical connection to the ground. I don't have a picture of it here. I snapped a picture in 2013 of a house that was one block directly east of Plaza Tower School. The only thing left standing were some interior walls where the residents wrote it out. They were just fine. I'm sure he had to clean his pants out afterwards. My gosh, why wouldn't he? But this closet where he sheltered, behind where he sheltered, you can see a school bag or one of the little plastic bags that some of the kids carry. And it was just as clean as a whistle because the wind didn't get in there. He survived. And he was in the direct path of the storm. Okay, next slide. Enough preaching. Hey, C5JUS, I think that's its call sign. Doug Spieger at the National Weather Service office down here has compiled all of the tornadoes in Oklahoma or in the Oklahoma City area for the last 140 years. This is a map of them. It doesn't extend to Norman, but we'll show you that one here in a minute. This is my fine city. Yeah, we've had several. Oh, by the way, there's tornadoes everywhere. People like to tease me about, oh my God, you're from Moore, you're going to die. Probably. Yeah. But, you know, and my gosh, I had a lady that was irritated with me after 2013 because we were running a storm shelter program and people who got blown away got first dibs. But she still had to live in Moore. Oh my gosh, I couldn't live in Moore anymore because that's where all the tornadoes are. I've moved to the north side of the city. Good luck with that. There is no one place in central Oklahoma that has any more or any less risk than any other place. That includes it being in my fine city. Where was the last tornado in Cleveland County? What? There's tornadoes in Norman? No. Sure there are. Yeah. But I believe it was yesterday was the anniversary of was it 2012? That came right over downtown. Started at 24th and Lindsay, or actually started southwest there, but 24th and Lindsay, came right across, tree damage, came right across Andrews Park, the high school, blew a little temporary building away there by the hospital, the Porter Campus Hospital. Yeah. So there is no one place that's any more or any less at risk in central Oklahoma than any other spot. Next. Cleveland County.
We just had a tornado go through Norman.
Yes, you did. Yep. The February 26th. Yep. Cleveland County tornadoes, you can see Norman's had their share, Noble's had their share, so on. Next slide, please. It's not just the tornadoes, straight line winds too. All of this is straight line damage. Took the roof off, peeled the roof off of that, put somebody's barn roof on that house. You can't tell it here, it uprooted a great big old tree. Next slide. If you're outside and there's a thunderstorm around and your hair starts to stand up, don't get your phone out and take a selfie. Because that's what these folks were doing, and they are no longer with us. Next slide. Flooding. Does Norman flood? So, and we have our spots in more too, as you can tell, because that top picture is one that I took. If you are out and there's flash flooding going on, and you have water flowing across the street, don't drive through it, please. Because can you see that the roadway still exists? Does the roadway still exist? What if you had tried to drive over that when the water was still flowing and hiding that? Shoop, boop. Or maybe there's that big old log in front of it. Next slide. This picture, or these two pictures, are pictures I took. I apologize for the quality, but it was difficult conditions. This is, I can't tell you where I was at, but I was out East Norman somewhere. 48th and Rock Creek, maybe. Don't hold me to that, but I was out there somewhere. And you can see up there, you can see fire trucks and ambulances and a rescue boat. Because this lady that's right below that green line up there decided to drive through a half mile of standing water, flowing water, and of course didn't make it. She ended up on the roof of her car. We had to use that boat to go in and get her, endangering not only her, but all of our responders too. Next slide. Spotting. I'm about out of time, aren't I? Wow. I lied when I said I wasn't going to take that. Spotter program. It's our job to go out and provide ground truth information to the EOCs. Here in Norman, it's most of you guys, the SCARS organization, the ham radio operators on the VHF repeater. If you, in Moore, we use dedicated volunteers with public safety radios that we've given them. Dave's one of ours. Next slide. So what you report, severe weather, 58-mile-an-hour winds are better, 1-inch hail or better, quarter-size hail or better, tornadic conditions. What not to report, please. We don't care about skies. How many of you know what SLCs are?
Scary looking clouds.
They are
Scary looking clouds.
absolutely scary looking clouds. Don't really care about Mamatis. That's what that arrow is showing. This is Mamatis. We don't care if it's raining.
What if it's raining
Now, if
really
rain-
hard?
I was going to say, if the rain is causing a problem like flash flooding, yes, maybe. But in the heat of the battle, we don't care. We don't care about pea-sized hail unless maybe it's the first report of the day. So if you've already heard somebody say, we've got a little bit of pea-sized hail starting here, don't go, hey, I've got some too. Oh, I've got some too. I've got hail. I've got hail. You're jamming up the net. Because you'll notice it says radio silence, please. That is not the time for chit chat. And what you can't see over marks where it says you're screen sharing, don't, I'm here to save the day. We don't care. Report. If you go ahead, next slide. Give us your call sign. We want to know who you are. Where are you? What direction are you looking? And what is it you're trying to report? Norman EOC, this is KI5UQU. I am at 48th and Rock Creek, Northwest. I am looking to the southwest and I see a wall cloud. Finger off the button. By the way, if you give a distance, that's good. Near far is probably better because anything beyond that, you're going to be wrong. Even the seasoned pros, how many of y'all have chased smoke plumes before thinking, oh my gosh, it's really close. And you drive and you drive and you drive. The only other thing is if you're reporting hail or wind and you say, I'm WX5MOR and I've got 58-mile-an-hour wind. Okay. Are you estimating that, or is that something you have some way of measuring that? Clear, concise. Go ahead. So, any questions, comments? Questions, comment? Bill?
Now, becoming part of Tornado Alley is here. Have any of those people contacted you or other folks from Oklahoma with some tips on what to do?
No, not that I'm aware of. The question is, states to our east appear to be having more tornadoes. And actually, that's not quite valid because the southeast, the Alabamas, Mississippis, they have a storm season. It's earlier than ours. And then Kentucky, Ohio, those guys, they have a storm season too. It's a little different from ours. And maybe they don't have quite, but yeah, there's a lot of tornadoes. And basically, if you're anywhere east of the Rockies, you're at risk. They don't have the TV guys like we do. They may be on the air, but they're not sending out the helicopters and the ground crews and this and particularly when you get on east and south, it's all wooded. You can't see squat anyway. So the spotting where we're at from I-35 west, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier than if you're out by the lake or on east where you have trees and hills blocking your stuff. Any other questions?
I managed the traffic supply in North. I live here in North, but we wondered about where we could pull up in that place. Any way to get folks from the bike there?
Do you have any interior rooms that are solidly constructed?
Yeah. Well, once upon a time, somebody did that and it took 5 companies to get them back out. So.
We actually learned something about that on May 20th. The employees at Tinker Federal Credit Union took shelter in the vault, which is a good place. And they shut the door, except the door is meant to keep people out, not lock people in. And so fortunately, they had a big burly police officer that was their security officer that day, who was trying to hold the door shut because it was trying to blow open, because again, it's not meant to, and my understanding is that the banking people recognize that and have gone back in, they've shared it with their colleagues and they've gone in and retrofitted a bunch of their vaults so that they can be shut internally if you wish. Beyond that, I can tell you, do not shelter at Walmart. We used to have a trailer. I don't know how long you've been around here. There used to be a trailer park over where those new apartments are on the west side of Telephone, and they used to go, "Oh, we'll go to Walmart," because you're not going to be in a trailer, right? It may have been better than a trailer, but not by much. And we had that happen on May 20th too. There was some people took shelter in the walk-in cooler at 7-Eleven at 4th and Telephone, and they perished. It used to be in the old day. Hey, same goes with your bathtubs. If you've got an old cast iron or porcelain, yeah, that may be good advice. If you've got a newer constructed home that has the little old flimsy fiberglass, not so much.
A lot of people gather under overpass.
Thank you, LeBon. Do not do that. Don't take shelter under an overpass because you don't get your new car hailed on. Well, A, be aware of your weather. Don't be out in it. B, when you do that, that blocks it. May 3rd, 1999, we had another F5. We had the first F5, let me put it that way. And my partner was trying to get into the 911 center to supervise 911 operations while I managed EOC. And an hour later, he shows up after we got hit. He goes, "I got caught under the bridge." And he knew that wasn't the place to be. I-35 southbound under the bridge, and I assume northbound was the same way, completely blocked from one side to the other. He couldn't get through. Tornado came right over him.
Yep.
He had a chunk of concrete in his driver's seat about this size. Fortunately, he bailed out for somewhere else. Don't park under overpasses and block roads.
Just don't time based off of that. If you're stuck in your car, you're on the highway, whatever, sirens are going off, you can hear them, or hell, you can even see the wall cloud or lowering. What's next?
Drive sideways to it. If it's coming this way,
You're
drive that way.
you're already in trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
You
Yeah.
screwed up already.
Don't try and outrun it. Don't try and outrun it. But if you do that, watch where you're at, because you may have a flash flood event go too. You know, we had people die on May 31st of 2013 in Oklahoma City who took
Yep.
shelter from the tornado that was coming under
In
a
a
big
ditch.
culvert,
Mhm.
and many of that family perished.
That happened in 1993 in Catoosa. Some of the deaths from the F4 up there were due to people taking shelter in a ditch.
Yep. Other questions, comments?
Don't speak of the girders of the overpass either. Is it speeding up?
Depends on the construction of the bridge. What Chris is referring to, Chris's comment was, don't get up
Get up under the
of
girders.
highway bridge either.
That's only in Kansas, I
Um,
thought.
Andover, Kansas.
That's where that
there
video is
is-
from. Yeah.
There is fabulous video of a tornado that passed over. There was news reported he was stuck on the turnpike. There wasn't anywhere to get off. So they stopped, got out, ran up under the part of the bridge where they could get shelter, and they survived. And it's great video. And if you've seen the video and don't know this, look at it again. And when they turn around and point the camera this way, there's a van on its nose being spun with two people in it who were injured but survived. But the construction of that bridge, they had open girders so they could get up, and the girders stopped the wind. Take a look at some of the bridges around here. You'll see all of that filled in with concrete. So it is literally like this. And if you're right here, there is nothing to protect you. Any other comments, questions quickly? Okay, before I give the microphone back, how many people here are working the marathon? Okay, I've already given you one. I've already given you one. I've already told you. There is a change in the sag wagon operation as of yesterday afternoon. Is there anybody else? Okay, so the sag runners are being dropped off at a different location. They're not going to the Nash 10 anymore. If you're not signed up for the marathon, why not? It is April 30th. There are somewhere around 80 to 85 amateur radio operators that are supporting that in a variety of positions, including providing communications at the medical tents. Some of the others, I don't see Lee's hand, but if I could see Lee, I'll bet his hand's up too. Relay exchanges, ice and water delivery, Dave's involved with that, and some other stuff. So sag wagons, we can always use more help. Come see us and we'll get you signed up. So again, thank you. And I'll be around if you have other comments, questions, or observations.
Let's thank Gayland for the great weather. And we also want to thank him for all he does to protect us. That's his job. All right, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and do our meeting.